My name is Cathy Laracas, and I work as a project manager for the Philippine National Red Cross on Palawan Island. The purpose of our project is to prepare the Filipinos for the numerous disasters which strike our country every year and to reduce their impact. We are working very closely with the local authorities and communities, so we call our project the Integrated Community Disaster Planning Program, or ICDPP. We believe it is a successful project, and in this video, we would like to present some of our methods and results and share some of the problems and challenges we face. Our project always begins with an assessment of the capacity and vulnerability of each community. We studied the frequency and impact of disasters, as well as the living conditions such as income, health, and available resources before we decide where to start the project. Presently, we are working in 5 areas. In 1994, with support of the Danish Red Cross, we began in the mountainous province of Benguet. We have since expanded to 3 coastal provinces, which are among the most depressed and disaster-prone provinces of the country. Recently, we included an urban area of Metro Manila as well, and now we intend to make the project nationwide. One of the provinces is Palawan. It is regarded as the last frontier of the Philippines, which is very rich in natural resources. But we also have our problems here in terms of natural and man-made hazards, such as floods, typhoons, forest fires, landslides, deforestation, and health problems such as malaria and diarrhea. On Palawan, we work mainly in Quezon, a municipality in the south of the island with 14 villages, or barangays as we call them in the Philippines. The people in Quezon are even poorer than those in other communities of Palawan. Quezon had been hit by a devastating forest fire in 1998 when we began. Each community has a number of volunteers who form a disaster action team. These volunteers undergo intensive training in disaster management, and they are the real movers of the project. One of their tasks is to conduct what we call risk and resource mapping. Basically, we map all physical resources in the barangays, as well as capturing any knowledge about previous disasters and recent man-made changes to nature. Our volunteers use many different kinds of tools when mapping, from long ropes and wires to compasses and to GPS, the Geographical Positioning System. Here, they are measuring the distance from riverbank to riverbank. All the data collected is then sent to the National Red Cross headquarters in Manila for final digitization into the database. What we end up with are very detailed and precise maps. We have the capacity to make these very sophisticated maps in the Philippines, and they are of great use to us. They can also be updated easily. But of course, risk and resource mapping can be done by more simple means. The important thing is to include all features in each village, just as our volunteers are doing here during a training session. The basic map includes all topographic features such as roads, rivers, mountains, and boundaries. Then we add the man-made resources such as houses, clinics, schools, barangay halls, and bridges. In the next step, we include economic resources and indicate land use such as agricultural or forested areas, irrigation systems, and settlement areas. And finally, we add information about hazards and mitigation, such as perceived threats, hazard areas, evacuation sites, and possible mitigation measures.
Kung pula naman, mga bahay sa sityo, simbahan, rice mill. Ito naman, ang kulay na ito sa health center, school. Ito banda sa applyan ng Kalumpang, Nyog.
Once the maps are ready, we take them back to the community like here, in the barangay of Alfonso 13 in Quezon. We use both the digitized maps and their three-dimensional versions to discuss how we can make a disaster action plan for each village. But we have also noticed that the local communities use the new maps for planning in other fields, such as land use and infrastructure. Our cooperation with the local government unit is essential for the success of the project. And in fact, many of the local officials have themselves become members of the Red Cross disaster action teams. However, as our approach is new and different, motivating the authorities and the local communities has sometimes been quite a challenge.
Nung sa mga unang implement nung proyekto, medyo may mga tao na nagdududa kasi minsan nga kahit sa harap na ng bahay nila ginagawa yung proyekto, parang ayaw nila. Pero nung nakita na nila na yung ibang tao na hindi direktang makikinabang sa proyekto ay tumutulong, nakuha na rin namin yung suporta ng mga tao na kumbaga pwede nating sabihin na yung kabuuan ng mga barangay sumusuporta sa proyekto.
So, if a forest fire happens again tomorrow, what will happen here in this municipality?
Ngayon dito sa bayan ng Quezon, mas handa na kami dahil bawat barangay meron ng Barangay Disaster Action Plan na nakapaloob doon kung ano ang mga gagawin sakali na may mga kalamidad.
The backbone of our project is what we call bayanihan in the Philippines. It means the spirit of cooperation and voluntary service, both with the local authorities and with our many volunteers who live and work in the community. One of them is Generosa Cabrestante. She is a 70-year-old farmer who joined the Red Cross 15 years ago. Now, she is one of the members of the local barangay disaster action team in Quezon. And here is she on her way to discuss the development of the local disaster action plan. The whole community is involved in planning for the future. As most of the men work in the fields during the day, matters about the community are left mainly for the women to decide. Each village uses the maps to discuss the risk and possible impact of disasters. The whole purpose is to reduce the vulnerability of the community by making a barangay disaster action plan and to propose a number of mitigation measures. These plans are very comprehensive and detailed, but at the same time realistic, describing who does what and when. Once the proposed mitigation measures are prioritized, the disaster action teams start looking for funding. Every disaster action plans done in the community includes relief distribution and some evacuation plans, but it has also these mitigation activities like the project here in Barangay Panitian. They have a protection dike, 300 meters. It was identified by the communities themselves to protect around 500 families from river flooding, from constant river flooding affecting their livelihood. This is the most difficult mitigation project we've had since the community people were the ones who identified this need. It took us quite a long time for the local government unit to believe that the project will be able to help the people. But through a series of activities, advocacy activities and constant meetings with them, we were able to convince them, and here we are right now. We have the protection dike almost finished in preparation for the rainy season. Normally, the local authorities supply the technical expertise and the equipment for the construction, with the community and volunteers providing the manpower and the Red Cross supplying some of the funds. This ensures participation and ownership from the start, and it is a move away from the tradition of communities being either passive recipients of development projects or being paid for participating. Other examples of mitigation projects are evacuation centers like this one, built in 2000. It functions as a health clinic when there are no disasters and is turned into a shelter during floods and typhoons. As only 1/4 of the population in Quezon have access to clean water, another village identified clean water supply as their first priority. Before, they had to walk very far just to fetch water from a source, 8 kilometers away. So they have now laid a pipeline, thus enhancing the flow of clean water to 12 new water points. In Barangay Maasin, we constructed this hanging bridge, which is used during the rainy season when the river floods the road and makes it difficult and dangerous for the people from one side of the village to cross when going to the school or clinic or market on the other side. Naturally, we always take local beliefs and traditions into consideration. In this barangay, the indigenous people worship nature spirits and perform rituals to ensure the blessing of all new constructions. Another important element of our project is the information and education we provide. We use posters, comic books, and role play to strengthen the knowledge and awareness about the hazards and their causes. For instance, we discuss what happens when you cut down all the trees in one area. We use humor and illustrations a lot, as well as interludes. We call them icebreakers, despite the scorching heat.
After the trust slide, we have decided to include the payatas in the program, as we have realized that people living in the urban area could also be very vulnerable, which is why at this time we're trying to help the communities down here identify preparedness and mitigation activities to help them overcome any kind of disaster as it may occur in the future. Working in Payatas, however, is not new for us, as we were already running a program for street children, training them to perform basic health care and education. Some of these junior health workers are now working as volunteers of the Integrated Community Disaster Planning Program as well. One of them is 16-year-old Alan, here staying at our multipurpose center, which functions as a clinic, a safe water point, and an education facility. Alan is visiting a family who lost part of their house due to a minor truss slide just a few days earlier. He is using the popular comic book with Captain Red Cross as the hero to catch the attention of the children.
Madalas magmuta yung mata natin. Kapag ang mga nabanggit na paunang sintomas ng sore eyes ay nararamdaman mo na, maghilamos ng malinis at maligamgam na tubig.
People living and working in Payatas are continually exposed to many kinds of health hazards such as skin infections, respiratory diseases, tuberculosis, and pneumonia. Water comes from dug wells, and toilet facilities are non-existent in many areas. Despite this, most of the residents try to keep themselves and their houses very clean. Since the truss slide, work on the dump site has become a bit more organized. Now, the scavengers work in groups, and only one group at a time is allowed to search the garbage from each truck. So there is less fighting and fewer accidents when a truck unloads, although this is still risky and unhealthy work. Payatas remains a controversial area, and many people would like to close it down because it is dehumanizing to live and work here and very dangerous, especially during the rainy season. Payatas is also close to the La Mesa Dam, which is the main water reservoir for Metro Manila. Others are interested in preserving Payatas, this enormous mountain of garbage, which provides a livelihood to thousands of poor people and an even bigger income source for some middlemen and officials. A scavenger can make between $2 and $6 per day, whereas a junk shop owner can make up to $50 per day. Grace Martin is one of the residents who would like Payatas to remain a dump site, even though she remembers her childhood days when she could grow rice and vegetables in the green valley just outside their house.
Kasi matagal na kami rito eh. Hindi kami basta kabutin is biglang sumulpot na lang dito. Kami una pa kami sa tambakan na dumating. Kaya karapatan namin na ipaglaban ang aming pinaghirapan dito.
And how do you make a living today?
Ito, kasi para magkaroon kami ng, dahil nga mahirap ang buhay ngayon, So nakita namin ng tambakan, malapit ang hanap buhay, walang amo, sipag lang ang kailangan, kaya andito kami pa ngayon. Pero hindi halos lahat ng tao dito nabubuhay dyan sa tambakan. Meron din kami mga ambisyon na ma-improve ang aming lugar, ang aming buhay.
Our volunteers are selected from among the scavengers and people living in Payatas. And they perform the same activities as volunteers in the other provinces, such as risk and resource mapping, interviewing and training about health, and discussing a disaster action plan with the authorities and the local community. Although we have the advantage of a local network, working in Payatas is a huge challenge for us. Many of the residents are migrants from other provinces. So we are dealing with diverse ethnic groups with different cultures and traditions. Some people only stay here a couple of years, and so their sense of belonging to the community is not particularly strong. We have now formed and trained a disaster action team in Payatas, and they have already conducted a series of education sessions. We explain in detail what we are doing, even the use of GPS or global positioning system, as it can create some misunderstandings. In one province, some residents thought we were gold diggers when we carried out our data collection.
Oh, si mother dapat hindi na kuan. Sabihin mo kay mother, stop na.
160 degrees, sir.
160 degrees record mo siya.
62.
Here in Payatas, another problem is that the physical features can change so fast. What is a road in the morning might be filled up with garbage in the evening. And what are houses one day might be moved or have collapsed the next. However, we have still managed to implement some preventive and education activities, and the preparation of a disaster action plan is underway. Although we feel that it's a big challenge to work here, we're here to help the vulnerable people of Payatas to get prepared for and protected from disasters, in the same way as the many poor Filipinos living in mountainous and coastal areas. Yes, it's sustainable because it's empowering communities that are in the front line of disasters. And that is what we need in the Red Cross, which is why we are going to implement this nationwide.
Ito ang panahong ating inihintay, tayong lahat ay magkaisa. Sa ating tungkulin na sa dugo at diwa natin, ating bansa tulungan natin. Ating bansa ibangon natin.